Today, I finally sat down with QOVES Studio and we talked about facial aesthetics. Our collaboration was long overdue. He's big on YouTube and I'm big on TikTok. Real quick, if you want to join my texting line, you can reach out to me on Patreon or you can reach out to me on my DMs if you want to set up a live facial analysis. Check out the rest of my channel and go ahead and subscribe and give it a like for the algorithm. Part 1 can be found on QOVES Studio's YouTube channel, and here's part 2.
Number 4, clothing. So your clothes should fit well and be neither too loose, as this can accentuate your body horizontally and make you look unpolished, like wearing horizontal stripes, or too tight, as this can make you look more feminine if you are skinny. Of course, this depends on your gender and preference. All people should dress accordingly to their age as well. What do you think about dressing accordingly for your age? Thoughts on that?
I I partially it depends on the person and it depends. I don't necessarily fully agree, but at the same time, good example of like someone who doesn't dress like her age and she probably should dress a little bit different to be received a little bit more professional is like Madonna. Madonna is like what in her 50s or 60s and
I
she's
think she's
still
in her
dressed.
70s. But Madonna's whole brand is built on just being wild, So I wouldn't blame her for
But
that.
I partially think I think the unfortunate thing about it is she's still doing the things that she did in her 20s, and it's turned to, oh man, it used to be like, oh wow, she's a wild one, she's crazy.
Yeah.
Now I can see
Now
the
it's just
public.
kind of sad.
Now it's kind of sad because she's holding on to her youth, and I saw and she photoshops all of her
Yeah, yeah, she does do that very
it doesn't even
heavily.
look like her in the Photoshop, but if you actually see actual videos of her, she has so much. She's overfilled with Juvederm and
Yeah,
all the fillers in her face,
yeah.
and it doesn't look natural. It's like it's pretty rough, and I wonder what's going to happen with the Kardashians as they age, because that's going to be a thing that they're going to have to like start to come into
Yeah.
acceptance in like 20
I mean, I
years.
mean, I think I'm pretty sure Chris Jenner has had some work done, and she actually looks fine for her age. She looks actually better than you'd expect for her age. So
Yeah.
I think it might not be as big of a deal, but as long as they don't get any more work done, so they don't get anything else on top of what they have now as they age, like Madonna did, or I mean, even better example, Donatella Versace. She used to be
Oh yeah.
very
Oh yeah.
natural looking, very beautiful, and then the, she started getting more and more work done, and it eventually became an addiction where you don't feel not addiction, maybe like body dysmorphia would be a better way of explaining it.
This might be a little bit unfair,
Yeah,
um, but I would say possibly dress the age you look. And the way I say this is, I mean, there are people like as we talked about, there are men that are literally 50 that look like they're in their early 30s. And they kept
yeah,
up with their body. They can get away
yeah,
with
for
dressing
sure,
young,
for
but
sure.
you have the same man that looks like who's 50, who looks like he's 50. He's not going to get away with the same kind of like treatment. It's going to look very
Yeah, yeah.
off.
And to make that even clearer, so exactly what I assume you mean by that. So your body weight, if you have a big beer belly, you can't really wear you kind of just start to look like a middle-aged dad. If you want to look, if you want to dress in your 30s, what does a 30-year-old look like? They're usually quite fit. For men, I would say that they're close to the peak of their physical fitness. So they're usually quite fit. They have most of their hair, like 90% or maybe like 80% of their hair. So if you're 50 and you have 80% of your hair, then you can pull off the 30 look. If the skin health is quite good, no severe wrinkles yet. If you're in your 50s and you don't have those yet, then you can pull off the 30 look. So you have to think about what are the factors that a 30-year-old would look like, rather than just letting yourself go and as you get into your 50s.
Yeah. I if we're on the topic of clothes,
Yeah,
one thing I think people don't think about is when we're talking about dressing in certain colors that are flattering to your skin tone. I think that is a thing that people don't fully understand, is that your skin is also factored into the outfit,
yeah, yeah,
like of the overall outfit. Because let's say, for instance, if you are a dark skin, um, you know, female,
Yeah.
then possibly something that is in contrast is like a bright yellow or white, obviously like the bright color in contrast kind of like really complements your skin. What I notice for my skin tone, I'm kind of light skin.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a reddish orange.
Yeah. I find more earthy, neutral colors to work better for that light skin spectrum.
Yeah. And what's crazy about it is, well, not necessarily crazy, but like I just know there will be times where there's a specific color that I try to like go and find. And whenever I wear that color, I always get compliments, even if the shirt is not great. Just because the color looks nice comparison to my skin,
Yeah.
then it then it kind of works. And then same thing with like color coordination. I listened to a cinematographer say this, and this is what he said: to create a style. And this could be applied to when you're styling.
Completely agree with that. Yep.
Your clothes, but your bedroom. He said, take 3-4 colors tops, and take every single color that is not that out of the vicinity.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden, no matter what you do, you're creating your own style. And make sure that the red is the same kind of red. If you have red shoes and you have a red shirt, make sure it's the same type of red.
Yeah.
It can't just be any type of red.
Yeah.
You'll start to see kind of like a coordination that you can kind of create. Not only that, if you're, creating a bedroom or whatnot, you can put that same kind of like that mindset with a lot of things.
And yeah, on that note, it goes so far because color coordinating your outfits, it may seem a bit, I don't know, a bit over the top for a lot of men, but it does show the extra effort, and it really something that they can't put their finger on it, but it's something that makes you stand out in a good way. And that extra effort does really make you look so much more polished. But obviously, you have to have the fundamentals together. This is like cherry on the top. You can't have a sundae without the actual ice cream. So you like the fundamentals, what we would consider. On that note of your style, developing a style, I think that's very important. I talk about this all the time in regards to clothing and aesthetic. I talk about it in terms of congruency. So if you have a certain face shape, you look a certain way, maybe you're tall and skinny, you can dress a certain way, you can wear, like the Saint Laurent outfits, and you know how they with SLP, the designer outfits, they're very slim cut, there's very sharp and angular, they're oftentimes usually in dark colors. And for that reason, it works on the models that they put it on, because all of those models are of a certain dimension, shape, and aesthetic. And if you look like that, then you can wear those clothes and it would look really good on you. Whereas if you're not like that, then you might have to go with a different brand. So say like Levi's. If you look at their models, they're like kind of like more masculine looking dudes, not like the feminine androgynous looks of SLP.
Yeah.
So with that kind of clothing, it's all made for a certain aesthetic, and there's a certain consumer in mind when they make these clothes. So you really need to find what brand your look identifies with, and then try to emulate that if you can. And it doesn't have to be expensive. Like SLP clothes are like 1,500 for a shirt or something. You don't have to buy that. There are much cheaper versions from Zara and H&M for fast fashion. And those little things. So if your friends know you as, I guess, the stylish one in the group, or the one that dresses a certain way, then it does help with the congruency. You do stand out for good reasons, because you're just known as this person who gets it. It's really all about just getting it.
Yeah, and I mean, the big thing that all these like little details when we're talking about skin quality, when we're talking about all of these hair and whatnot, I always ask my clients of like, if you were to isolate this feature, what would this feature be? Would this feature be above average? Are people complimenting on you? Because people compliment people all the time on a hairstyle. Are people complimenting on you, or are they just going to be like, oh, you got a haircut?
Yep.
What type of like feedback are you getting? And so if you were to isolate every part that we've talked about, skin, would they say, oh my gosh, you have amazing skin? Or if you have an outfit, would they say that's a clean outfit? If you have a lot of these features where people are saying, oh, he has nice hair, great skin, really nice outfit.
Yeah.
All of the kinds of like things that people are liking about you add up. And if you have more of these things that people are like, this is really nice, then overall they'll think of you as an attractive person because you have all of
100%, 100%.
qualities that add up.
Exactly. And that's what people don't understand. It's not just one or two things. Just because you wear designer clothing, but it's like trashy Gucci outfits or something like that, like fake Gucci.
Yeah.
Just because you're wearing expensive clothing doesn't mean people are gonna like you and your outfit's clean. Because it's a lot more dependent on your aesthetic, and the aesthetic is dependent on your face. It's dependent on your body proportions, your facial dimensions, your hair quality, your skin quality. There are so many factors, and these are the things that I try to teach on the channel. If you watch all of the videos on the channel, you probably have a very good idea of where you sit on the which aesthetic you would work best with, and you can dress accordingly to that once you understand that, and then maybe just change out your whole wardrobe to cater to that certain aesthetic. And it doesn't have to mean that you're wearing the same clothes every day. It can mean that you're wearing variations of similar styles of clothing. So if you want to look dark and mysterious, then maybe wear black colors with maybe quite revealing cuts, like a deeper V-neck or something like that. And that way you're emulating your sexuality. You can seem mysterious, kind of like how that bad boy stereotype is. They're highly sexual but mysterious and brooding, and so you can express that through clothing, and it's all dependent on your aesthetic. So if you like, the best way of explaining this, say Michael Cera, right, the actor.
Yeah.
Right, say Michael Cera in a leather jacket and like I don't know, some kind of jeans, it just wouldn't have the same effect. All right, there's a reason why the quote unquote bad boy look is it's kind of just certain looking men pull it off better than others, and this is what I'm trying to explain here.
And at the same time, sometimes and this is where my channel might be a little bit different. Sometimes the style isn't necessarily the best style for them that complements them, but at the end of the day, the person really likes that style.
Yeah.
And my biggest thing is that I say to a person, if you're going to do something, do it unapologetically. Yeah. And actually go for it. If you really like rockabilly style or something like that,
yeah,
and you really love it, don't just halfway do it.
Exactly.
Like go full out into it, because the thing about it is that makes a person attractive. What is an attractive person? An attractive person is a person that stands out from averageness. And if you are bland and you're just like not really great, not really bad, but just like forgettable, then that's the perfect time to like really delve in and just be like really just stand out and just like kind of like embrace everything that you love about whatever style that you want to do or something like that.
Yeah, 100%. 100% agree with the go full out with anything that you do because it's completely it's the difference between like you're saying, it's different between mediocrity and actually standing out. And I follow this with every aspect of my life. So if I'm doing a public presentation, I go all out, because if I don't go all out, I'll embarrass myself more than going all out and then actually leaving an impression. Whether it's good or bad, it's less embarrassing to just really go full out than it is to go halfway and then look unconfident and unsure of what you're doing, which is far more embarrassing. Just from personal experience, always go all out.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, let's move on to the last thing for this week's agenda: exercising. So despite body positivity being in right now, I'm not completely sold on this. I think that having a toned, muscular, or lean body has always been and will remain as the gold standard. I've seen some videos claiming that fat men like King Henry VIII were desirable back then, but I feel like that has more to do with wealth and power rather than physical attractiveness, given that people back then struggle more to survive, blah, 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 so on and so forth. To back this claim up, I don't think that any of the Marvel movies would have achieved the success if they did, if they used actors that didn't have aesthetically pleasing bodies, with the exception of Chris Hemsworth in Avengers Endgame when he wore that fat suit. But people still loved it because his face is god tier, gorgeous, so on and so forth. So basically harping on the importance of physical attractiveness in the most basic sense.
Well, if I'm not even mistaken,
Yep.
I think Henry VIII was not overweight until he had injury, and then he started.
Yeah. I recall that. Yeah, it was something. He had some kind of disease that actually made him gain, like, it was all bloat. It wasn't actually actual fat. And even then, it's like that's Henry VIII wasn't entirely the beauty standard. There's a reason why Michelangelo statues use very handsome looking men,
Yes.
very
Yeah.
aesthetically looking men, and they knew this from far back as antiquity, and even before that. With what we're seeing, there's a reason why these statues and these artworks use very physically attractive looking men, and that, I think that just goes without saying.
Also, are you really going to trust scholars that are writing about the king while the king is alive? Like, I mean,
Yeah.
do you really think scholars are going to be like, yeah, the king is really
Yeah.
ugly, like, get beheaded if you
Yeah.
wrote it like
Yeah.
that?
Yeah. It's not a
So,
very reliable source.
and then not only that, Rubenism, which is a thing that I covered. I did a whole section on the history of being attractive,
Yep.
and I forgot his. I think, is it Peter Rubin? It's but it's called Rubenism.
Yep.
Rubenism. This artist that basically upheld obese women as this kind of like beauty standard and whatnot.
Right.
And during the time where rich people would be gluttonous, while the poor people would starve. And this is kind of like he kind of like perpetuated this kind of like
Right.
ideal of beauty of being like overweight. And not only that, the obese positivity movement is extremely problematic. There was one time where it was actually like it was trying to accept people with curvier sides, not necessarily being
Yeah.
overweight. It was just curvier.
Yeah.
Things like African American women have curvier hips,
Yeah.
and Caucasian women, and so that was kind of like where it started, I believe. And
And then it just
now,
got distorted into something hideous.
yeah, because everyone wants to be included. And I just saw a video, and I'm gonna probably do a YouTube long form YouTube about it. It was a woman that was like 325 pounds, and she said in the comment in the title, she was like, "This needs to be the new beauty standard," and it's really unfortunate because I think, especially in America, the people that are overweight are victims. They are victims to a society that profits off of people being overweight. I don't necessarily think the medical industry says you should be overweight to be healthy, but I don't think they necessarily are that upset that the body positivity movement is allowing people to become obese, because there's about, I believe, 9 to 13 different types of like diseases and ailments that are and cancers that are linked to obesity. So
I mean, not even, I would, sorry to cut you off there, I wouldn't even stretch that to obesity. I would just say just being overweight. And the statistics, if I remember, it's like 60% of the American population is overweight, which is insane when you think about it. That's 2 in 3 people. And for that reason, it's not just that the medical industry doesn't really care. It's kind of like with alcohol and tobacco. It's an addiction. I think food addiction is very much just like any other addiction. It's less talked about, like with porn addiction, but it's still nonetheless an addiction, because you do get dopamine when you eat, and that can be very stimulating over time. It can be very addictive, but just like that, you have free will, and America apparently is the land of the free. So I guess they don't really have a right to say, okay, don't eat, don't be a glutton, or don't smoke tobacco, or don't drink yourself to death. You can't really say that, because you do have autonomy.
It's not just the amount that they eat. It's the type of food, the quality of food, how it's approved, all of these things. Kind of like even the water has things, has things that can affect your testosterone. So it's just like microplastics and whatnot. And there was a TikTok of a person who essentially he worked at a plant that basically sold pig feed. And what they would do is they would take bags that had bread and all that kind of stuff. And what they would do is they wouldn't even take the bread out of the bag. They would throw the bag with plastic in the blender, and then they would feed the pigs that. And so now if you were to cut open a sausage, any kind of sausage in the United States, you will find microplastics more or less, and I believe
Yeah,
90% of people
100%,
have
100%.
a
That's definitely a very big concern as well. I have a video ready on talking about microplastics and how it's affected testosterone levels with Dr. Sony Sherpa. But what we're going to be, what I really wanted to touch on
yeah,
is it is a very much a systemic failure. The FDA and really in Australia the TJ they need they're not entirely in charge of what we eat, but with in terms of the medication, in terms of how things are marketed, the governing bodies don't actually have a whole lot of power, and that's just because of bureaucratic processes and because of lobbying. It doesn't
yeah.
really. It's kind of like you're a rat in a box, and you pretty much just have to eat what they give you. So
Yeah, and then not only that, you know, when people are only making minimum wage, what are they going to do? They're not going to. If you want to make a little bit more money, you have to work 12 hours a day, and then you're not going to have time to make food, or feel like you're not going to have time to make food, or you're going to work 8 hours a day, and you're going
yeah,
to only have money to buy that dollar McDonald's burger.
yeah,
So
yeah.
that's like the system that's been set up in
See,
America.
the most critical thing that I heard about this, and this is from an interview. This is from a source. Well, I won't say exactly who said this, but one of the highest paid male models in the world, their manager said in an interview not too long ago, or we in a personal interview, that there will never ever be plus size male models ever. And I think this is really important because the idea of dad bods, I think they do have some appeal to them, but I don't think it's the appeal from the physical look, rather the what the dad bod indicates, that you're good with your hands, you know, you have fatherly characteristics, you can fix things. So those are like desirable things, but actually having the plus size dad bod look, it's not sexually desirable, and it never will be, because just because it's not physically, it's just, how do I explain it? It's just not physically sexually
Yeah.
attractive, right? It's the same reason we don't find chubby faces attractive, same reason we don't find disfigurements and malignments and malformations attractive, same reason
Well,
we don't
the
find acne skin attractive, so on.
Well, the biggest thing that I sometimes ask, which is like a good rule of thumb, is you know, I try to work out and I try to get my body close to the golden ratio, um, where the waist to shoulder ratio 1.618.
Right.
I do a whole kind of like thing with that. There's also, you know, the obviously the Adonis measurements, where it's based off of your wrist size. And
Yep.
whatever your wrist size is, that's naturally what your body is capable of really being able to, you know, go to its fullest
Yep.
potential as far as like measurements.
Yep.
And obviously, if you are shorter, you're still going to be slightly off from the golden ratio,
Yep.
because you're going to be kind of like a very condensed,
Yep.
you know, muscle person. And the taller you are, if you're taller than 6'3", you slowly go further away from the
Yep.
golden ratio, at least with height.
Yeah.
So that sweet spot obviously is between the 6 feet, 6'1", kind of like, you know, area.
Yeah, I mean,
Uh,
sure, but like the thing is, I never really followed any golden ratio, and there are a lot of criticisms of the golden ratio in its applications on humans.
mhm.
We've covered that so many times. So for that reason, I just avoid any talk of the golden ratio, because
Okay.
it's not the most effective measure. Really, in terms of my own physical aesthetic, what I go for, I just focus on staying lean year round, and that's just more so a personal preference, because in modeling and stuff, you need to have very sharp features, especially on your face. So the main goal is to just avoid storing fat on my face, and which just means being at a low body fat year round. In terms of muscularity, I do work out to maintain what I have and build some more during very short bulk seasons. But other than that, it's very much so. I think leanness is more important than actual muscularity, and I think a good way of explaining this is with the swimmer body type. Um,
Okay.
broad shoulders, that's not something you can really control, but that's also a reason for why it's such an honest indicator of genetic fitness. So we made a video on clavicle length, and broader your shoulders are, the more sexually desirable it looks. And since you can't change that, that's an honest indicator. So it's basically, it says that this guy is not faking it. There's no way you can fake it, right? Because you'd have to get surgery, distract your bones further or something like that, right? So The swimmer body type is really and so many studies have shown that the swimmer body type, the otter body type, whatever people want to call it, is the most desirable, right? Not too muscular, more on the lean side. It has some definition but not too much definition. And I think most people, when they consider dad bods, I feel like a lot of people think of that as well. There's a bit of confusion as to what a dad bod is. So when they say, oh, I like dad bods, do you really like the body type? Do you like what it represents? Do you like, what is it that you really like about it? And nobody can give me a clear answer.
Mm. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of dad bods, but I guess I can see where some people.
Yeah, because like I'm saying, like
Yeah.
I think the dad bod is representative of something else, which is what
Yes.
people like its fatherly characteristics. You don't care too much
Well,
about, being uptight about the gym. Yeah.
one thing that does come to mind is because a lot of women, at least this is in the United States, because a lot of women are overweight. There is a intimidation that happens where you have like a muscular male. The biggest kind of like thing that comes up with a lot of women, they might say they might be a little bit intimidated by that.
Yeah, that's certainly a thing. That's certainly a
And
thing.
so the dad bod might also represent like, oh, he's muscular, but he's not to the point where I'm going to feel self-conscious about everything that I'm eating, and everything that I'm doing. Because when you have abs and you're super lean and you're cut and whatnot, that represents so much discipline because it takes so much time you can't be the person that just naturally just wills your way from going to really bulky into out. It takes a lot of self-discipline. And if you're not in that kind of like realm, it can be very intimidating of just like, well, I'm not doing that.
Yeah, well, I think there's also a nuance to it because with men's preferences for women, it's more like a bell curve distribution. So men like women of all shapes and sizes, whereas women's preferences for men, it's very much skewed, where they prefer a very small subsection of men, and I guess 6 foot, 6 foot other thing, 6 inch other things, and six-figure bank account, that adage. But there's a very small subsection of men, whereas with women, so whereas with men's preferences of women, there's curvy women, there's short women, petite women, there's tall women, there are, there's skinny women, a bit larger. There are so many preferences.
I will say the situation that happens with tall women, there are some significant downsides that happen with tall women. Yes, they have more options than a short man, but yeah, there are some.
Yeah, I mean, I think so, but also just anecdotally speaking, I like the last person, like I know I have a lot of tall friends that are women,
Yeah.
and no, they never really struggled with any of that, especially because as you're taller, you're also leaner, and I guess that appeals. It kind of just puts you into a aesthetic, because if you're like 6 foot and you're also overweight, that's a lot of food that you have to consume, a lot, and especially as a woman. And so taller women also tend to be leaner, and so there's men that like lean looking women, with sharp features, kind of like the model look, and so they never really, I don't think it's that bad. I still think, like I said, bell curve distribution. Even with the bell curve distribution, there's still not everyone has the same amount of preference for, there's like a peak in the middle, and then there's, the extremities.
Well, I would say, I mean, we're assuming that the tall women are essentially attractive, but I'm saying like if they're average, if they're in an average range of look and they're tall on top of that, that might be a disadvantage. But if they're in the attractive realm, I mean, I think that kind of like supersedes a lot of things.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Certainly.
I even know like some there's plenty of like guys that are short, and because they are extremely attractive, they do just fine.
100%. And people in the Looksmax community were kind of feel like, what, this is not possible, this is clearly fake news. But no, if you get in the real world, there are people that can do that, and I've seen it with my own eyes. Like, it's not that crazy of an idea.
But the shorter you are as a male, the more attractive you have to be,
Yeah, for sure.
or financially, you know,
Yeah. I mean, let's not even consider financials, because if I want to be desirable to somebody, I would want it to be for my looks, not for my money, right? That's just, it's never been negotiable. Like, it has to be for my looks. That's like, because what happens if I lose my money? Then that's it. You just go away.
well, here's the thing. I don't necessarily, when I say financially, attractive,
Yeah.
I don't necessarily say gold digger. I want
Yeah.
to say this as in you are
Like
independent.
independent, yeah, and
You,
has some power status.
yeah, and you can provide for kids. You can make
Yeah.
sure, because the big thing that I think women look for, or at least this one thing that has to be answered, is a certain form of protection. Even if they are independent, there
Yeah.
has to be this question answered of like, how are you going to
Yeah.
protect me?
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. For sure.
Through their muscles. Some men can protect women through their muscles. Some men can protect women
Some men
through.
can pay other men to do it for them.
Yes, exactly. And so that is like, these are two ways that you can, and also some men can look intimidating because
Yeah.
they are tall. If you're
For
tall,
sure.
you naturally are an intimidating kind of like person, unless you're very
Yeah.
lanky. And
Yeah.
then
And if you
that's a
have
whole
sharp
thing.
features, if you have tattoos, there's so many other ways that it's really all about the impression of safety that you can give.
Yes.
And you're completely right about that. We were still talking on the topic of exercising.
Yes.
And so plus size body sizes, I think it's not entirely fair to say that there is no preference. So with women and men, there are some differences in terms of plus size body sizes. I think to a limit, curvier women still have their market. Petite women still have their market. Like I said, bell curve distribution, and I 100% stand by that. With men, you do need to. You don't have to be six pack ripped, but you can't really get away with being overweight. And
Yeah.
I think even with women too, you can't get away with being overweight. You can be curvy, but that's not the same as overweight. And I think everybody knows what overweight stands for.
And the thing about it is, sometimes when another thing that I ask is, what is your body fat percentage? And sometimes they tell
You
me,
ask women what their body fat percentage is on a first date?
no.
On your Patreon.
I'm talking about my clients that work
Okay.
with me. So
That would
I
be funny.
ask what is their body fat percentage, and some of them say like 30%. And if you're
Yeah,
30%,
that's
obviously,
way too high.
if you're a woman, it's a different like standard.
Yeah.
You can be a little bit bigger, but like not.
30% is
But
still pretty high.
but the thing about it is, especially if you're a male, they say 30%, and I can see that I can tell if a person has like very good structure underneath
Yeah.
their weight. And I know that a lot of them have never seen their actual facial structure.
100%. I completely agree with that. Yeah.
And a lot of these people don't even realize it, but they can probably be at least above, average looking.
Yeah.
If they were just a lot leaner. And give you a perfect example, she was already beautiful, but when she leaned out, the big change happened. Adele was, she had great features already.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. But Adele she was in the curvy market, and then she went to, I guess, a more leaner market. But nonetheless, I think her attractiveness didn't really go up or down. It's more just she appealed to a different mainstream, right?
Yes, and so, but what I'm saying is just like, a lot of people don't realize they might already have the foundation
for sure
for them. They just never have seen it.
Yeah, for sure. So just to clarify, we're not telling people to like starve themselves. We're telling them that that there are limits, and I guess there's limits, right? So you don't want to be too underweight, you don't want to be too overweight, and unfortunately, the majority of people are in the overweight category, which is just baffling to me. But it's a systemic failure on your country's part for allowing these types of foods to be marketed, and even the proportion size to be so insanely big. When I went to New York, proportion size were insane. I was like, what the hell is this? But it's good value though. It's such good value.
I would, that's why I always try to say lean, try to be lean, not skinny.
Exactly.
And for me, there's a big difference. if you're what is it, Devil Wears Prada,
Yeah.
and you're Emily Blunt, what's that?
Yeah.
I think that's the name.
Yeah.
If you're eating a cube of cheese to starve yourself,
Yeah.
the way that your body is going to be skinny, compared to if you were to work out and tone out,
Exactly.
it's going to be kind of like a different visual
Yeah.
result, and it is going to look different because you're going to be healthier. You're going to have a lot of circulation,
Yeah.
circulation going through your body all the time. So that is very good for
Completely
you.
agree. Yeah. No, I think both men and women should have a certain level of muscularity to them, which requires working out, not just naturally being muscular, but having something that does require working out. And it shows discipline to me. That's really the most important thing.
Yeah.
So my partner, she's also a model, and yeah, no, she has like the right amount of leanness, and just shows so much discipline to me, and that's like one of the most attractive qualities I like about her.
I would say one big thing that I feel like is lost with this generation, a lot of people do, well, specifically, a lot of women do BBLs. This is like a new trend.
Yeah, as a cheat code.
And it's a cheat code. But the thing about it is, a lot of the results that they really could get if they actually started doing squats, if they actually started doing things that can actually increase. I don't know if you've seen, like, if a man works out and he does a lot of squats and a lot of the things that he does, that area is going to grow significantly compared to.
Yeah, I don't know if you've seen like cyclists, like Tour de France cyclists.
Oh yeah, I saw.
Yeah.
I viral TikTok.
Yeah. The comments were so funny. It's like all the girls started going back to the gym after seeing that.
Yeah, it's the interesting thing about it is, the trade-off is, when you actually work out and you work for it, it's natural. It's going to be in your body. It's going to naturally look in your body no matter what. If you do a BBL, what is that BBL going to look like 30 years?
It's going to start sagging.
Look like 30 years from now?
Doesn't look good.
What about if you were to change your weight, from when you got it? It's just like,
I mean, it's not even that. It's just that the people who get a BBL don't have the discipline to get it normally, or else they would have. And if they don't get it naturally, then what happens is that they also don't have the lifestyle choices, the correct lifestyle setup to maintain that BBL. Stay lean, have the right amount of musculature to actually hold up the shape of the BBL. So there's so many things that lacks. That even after you get it might look good for a year or maybe even 5 years, and then after, just because you don't have those lifestyle settings in place, it's just going to go to shit.
And the thing about it is, I think this is partially due to the indirectly, but I think it's partially due to the body positivity movement, because the amount of laziness that happens now with cultures, with entertainment or social media and whatnot. I just feel like people don't want to put in the effort. People just, again,
it's like every aspect of life. It's always been like that. Anything from starting a business to going to the gym to eating healthy to developing healthy relationships with people. Nobody wants to do the work in anything anymore. And why would you, when you can just get an easy way out? Like, there's people on TikTok selling courses on how to make six figures. There's BBLs.
6 figures off of telling people how to make
which is just, I love it. It's natural selection at this point. There's BBLs, there's injections and cosmetics and injectables. There's just so many solutions that it doesn't make sense for people to it's not that, it's just made it accessible for the people who shouldn't have access to those things. So it's kind of like just cutting the line, basically.
And it's one of the most dangerous operations that you could ever do to yourself, a BBL.
And super dangerous.
A big thing, at least with exercise, I think it's extremely crucial to work out and possibly do some kind of strength training during puberty. To have testosterone, higher amount of testosterone in your body during the developing years. That is like something, and you can see it. If you see these, kids that start working out at 15, and by the time they're 20, it's like you can see literally a complete change.
That 100%.
I wonder what that kid would look like if he didn't work out, and maybe he just like got a little bit overweight. Like, what kind of development would he have, you know,
Yeah.
facial development, like development, he would had in
Yeah.
general. So that's kind of like why I tell my viewers, like, please, 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 during your puberty, it's crucial to like do some type of strength training or something like that.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's just the thing is, most men know that they should work out. Like you go on TikTok, every other video is telling them men to work out, but nobody tells women to work out. And I think
Yeah.
that's the market that's underserved, and it's honestly a disservice to them because they're just told that they have to look dainty and feminine, and working out will make them look too bulky. That
Well,
couldn't be further from the truth.
yeah. Well, the thing about it is, I think, yes, I will agree, and also slightly want to add something with, yes, men are told to work out, but however, I don't think men understand the consequences of not working out,
Right, right.
in puberty. The consequences are you don't get a lot of testosterone, especially if you have low amounts. If you're
Yeah,
overweight, uh, this is crucial.
yeah.
And it's not just about having nice muscles. It's about bone density that you
Yeah.
will essentially miss out on, especially if you start in your 30s or whatnot. So, so this is
I think it's
something that,
more about even discipline, because that's
yeah.
at that point of time, discipline is super important. If you don't start it early, I started when I was 14, and it helped me with discipline so readily that I was able to start businesses later on. I was able to do well at school. I was able to wake up early at 5 in the morning and go for a run. So those are things that was so helpful just from working out, and that discipline is the most important thing. I think ignoring testosterone levels, ignoring bone density, discipline is the crucial, the ability to delay gratification for later on in the future versus a short-term gain now is it's one of the key indicators of success. And this is not me saying this, is from a research study where they asked some of the most successful people what their most defining feature was. It's the ability to delay gratification.
Thanks for watching, guys. Go ahead and subscribe to my channel for future content. Give it a like, and if you have any opinions, put it in the comment section below. If you are an adult, you can actually join my texting line where you can text me 24/7 whenever you want, and I will respond to you. If you want to get a facial analysis, you also have to be 18, but it will be free, completely free of charge, and it will be distributed on all my other social medias, so you would have to be okay with that. Also, go ahead and subscribe to QOVES Studio. He has great content, and I'll see you guys next time.